Have a look at the information. So, subordinating conjunctions. They link a dependent clause to a main clause. That means extra information to a sentence. So if you know that a sentence is made of a subject and a verb, which you will know if you go back and have a look at my verb lesson. So we have a main sentence, and then any extra information that adds to that main sentence, which cannot be a whole main sentence by itself, is a subordinate clause. And a subordinate clause is stuck to a main sentence via a subordinate conjunction or subordinating conjunction. So a subordinating conjunction comes first before the dependent clause, the extra information. So there are many types of word which can behave like subordinating conjunctions, but I'm just going to give you some example of some. So after, although, as if, as long as much as soon as though, because, before, even if, even though, how, if, inasmuch as, in order that, lest, now that, provided, since, so that, than, that, till, unless, until, when, whenever, where, wherever, while. Whew. So that's just an example of some subordinating conjunctions. So step 1, read and underline the main sentence. So here is our first sentence in black. Whilst the two animals were engaged in conversation, a familiar face appeared. So the main sentence, the main subject this is about, and the verb is this. A familiar face appeared. Now, to help you find the extra information, remember I've said to look for a comma. So here is our comma here. I'm just going to circle it in red. Here is our comma. And our comma should separate the extra information, the subordinate clause, from the main sentence. So our main sentence is a familiar face appeared. The face is the subject and the verb is appeared. And on this side of the comma is what is called a subordinate clause. Look, whilst the two animals were engaged in conversation. I know that because if I said that by itself, whilst the two animals were engaged in conversation, it would make no sense without some more information coming after that. Do you see? So now we've found a subordinate clause, which is this section, and I'll underline the whole of our subordinate clause, the extra information which is dependent on, which means it needs to be with the main subject and verb, so the main sentence to make sense. Now I look at the word that introduces it, and the word that introduces it is whilst. So whilst is the subordinating conjunction. After several hours of practicing, Friendship Duck still couldn't fly. What did I say to look for to help you identify where the extra information and main clause meet? Well done, the comma. There it is, look. On this side we have Friendship Duck still couldn't fly. So we have a subject and a verb. That's called a modal verb. Don't worry about that now. I'll have lessons about that later on. But this goes with the word to fly. And here, look, after several hours of practicing, that would make no sense unless you have Friendship Duck still couldn't fly. But Friendship Duck still couldn't fly makes perfect sense on its own. That's how you know you've got your main clause. So now I've found my subordinate clause. Where is my subordinating conjunction? The word after is the subordinating conjunction, and subordinating conjunctions introduce the subordinate clause, the dependent clause. Now in my examples you can see that I have put my subordinating conjunctions at the beginning of the whole sentence. Well, that's not always the case, and another thing about subordinating conjunctions is you can turn them around in a sentence and it will still make exactly the same sense. For example, you could start your sentence, a familiar face appeared whilst the two animals were engaged in conversation. And you could start your sentence, Friendship Duck still couldn't fly after several hours of practicing. I think you're ready for the activity. Remember the steps. Read the sentence, look for the comma in order to find your main sentence, your main clause, and then find the dependent clause. Once you've found the dependent clause, look at the first word that introduces that, and that will be your subordinating conjunction.